researching some hashtags that are in your niche, like some larger hashtags, and going there and finding posts that you're actually interested in the top posts. So when you're looking at the top 9 or top, sometimes I don't find anything I'm interested in the top 9. And part of my whole ethos as a business owner is that I want to be truthful, and I want to be honest, like an honest, business owner. I don't want to just engage for engagement's sake.
Hey, Team Edgar community, we are excited to be joined by Willow Paule today, who is going to give us a wealth of information about creating and distributing content online. Willow owns her own creative business, and I'm excited for you to learn from her. One of the things that really caught my eye about Willow was she has this really awesome tagline on her LinkedIn profile that says, "Your story creatively told." So I thought we'd start there, and I'll pass it over to Willow to introduce who she is, what she does, and dive into start about what it means to her to have your story creatively told online and why that's an effective business practice. So go right ahead, Willow.
Hi, Megan. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate you having me here today, and I'm excited to talk to everybody. I think it'll be fun. I'm Willow, and I'm a content creator and community manager and community builder, which basically means I like to talk to people online and help my clients meet the people that are really impactful in their businesses and the people that are going to buy from them and support them in what they do. And I like that you asked me that question about my tagline, because I was thinking, oh no, I don't know. How did I get that tagline? Sometimes the creative process is long and arduous. So I think what I did was I was playing around with a lot of different words. I come from content creation from a visual background. I was a documentary photographer. I had my own photography business since 2009, and I still do photography. And so telling the visual story is really important to me, and getting to the heart of people's story and telling it in a really compelling way is part of what I find important as part of my work. And so I was playing around with a lot of different things that just weren't making much sense, and or they made sense, but they were like clinical, and they didn't really express that feeling of creativity and heart or any of the things that I wanted to get across. So I was feeling frustrated, and I asked my dad for help, which is my go-to person sometimes because he's a copywriter, so he's good with words. And I think he just helped me sort of take some of those different, some of the different words that I've been playing with and stick them together into something that really made sense for me. So I was happy with what we came up with.
Yeah, what a cool story. I love how you can bring other people into the creative process and they can see the connection that perhaps you didn't make. That's really awesome. And telling stories these days really can be visual or with text. And I love that your background started visual and kind of morphed into telling stories in more of a text and word form. But I would love for you to dive in a little bit next. What are some of the starting tips that you can give to new content creators or people just starting out with their brands on making deeper connections through their content online and really having their audience feel like they know them and they know what type of content to expect from them, and they feel that really special connection that we're all looking for?
I think it's good to sort of think about what you like in real life when you're considering how to manage your social media or interact online. I think it's good to gravitate towards the things that you really like to do in your non-online life. So for me, I'm an introvert, but I'm an introvert who's like obsessed with people and understanding people. So for me, for my brand, I like to get to know people on a deeper level, and maybe that means really listening well to what people are saying that are in my audience, trying to have conversations with them, maybe just one-on-one conversations in the DMs, or even like an email back and forth. I I email back and forth with some of the people that have been following my photography for years or something. You know, we actually have conversations about what we like to photograph and just our lives. It's sort of morphed into friendship. So I think being clear, figuring out how you feel about, like, how do you like to communicate in real life, and then sort of bringing that into your social media persona. I think it's easy to get overwhelmed with information and like best practices. And while it's good to be informed and know what's going on in the landscape of social media, I think it's also really, I think we miss out on our intuition sometimes. And I think that's a really important part of owning a business and doing business in the way that feels good to us.
Yeah, that is really clever, actually. Not clever, that's not the right word, but that's a really good point in the fact that if you're going out there and following only the best practices, the most unique part of your business, and that's the way you can actually convey information, totally gets lost if you're too caught up in the frameworks that everyone else has done and you don't see what you can actually bring to it. So I love that, taking what you have in real life and bringing it to online. And that's what this buzzword authenticity, I feel like, really means. It's just making sure you're paying attention to those things that interest you in real life, because that's going to come across so much more passionately on screen. That's a really awesome answer. So we've created content now, and we've authentically got our brand voice out there, and we're listening to our followers, and we're laying the foundation for what type of content we want to keep creating. But if we're just creating content and we're not thinking about the strategies of how to distribute that, we're probably losing out on a lot of eyes that would be interested in seeing our content. So can you go into a little bit about the hashtag strategy or any other distribution strategies that our listeners could use in order to really ensure that their content is getting out to more people?
Okay, sure. Um, Maybe this is like something that young people don't even know about, but when I think about hashtags, I think about the Dewey Decimal System that they use at the library to, you know, order the books and make sure that we can find the books that we want and we can put them back where they belong later, or the librarian can. And it's just a system for understanding where things are. So the fun about hashtags is it's not quite as straightforward as that, but it works similarly in that we can do research to find hashtags that work really well for our content. So I think part of it is doing that research and figuring out where we are in the landscape. So if you have a new account, you probably don't want to use like the most gigantic hashtags because it will be hard for people to actually find you in there with gigantic accounts that have, you know, thousands and thousands of followers. So what I advise people to do is to sort of take stock in where they are on, let's say, Instagram. And part of their process should be going through and looking at each hashtag on Instagram. So you would just type it in at the top and then click on it and see what the top 9 or so images look like. For one, like sometimes I'll think that a hashtag is going to be really good and really perfect for my audience, and then when I get there and maybe I look at more than 9. I might look down a little further. Just the visual person in me, I really want to see. If it looks like something very different from what I do, I normally don't take that hashtag because I just feel like it's not really going to help me in the long run. I want people that actually care about what I'm talking about to find me. I don't want it just to be sort of like, you know, maybe this will work. So I would reject that. But if I was looking through and I was like, wow, these are some really impressive visuals, and I think these people are in a similar industry, or these are people that are looking for what I do, I would definitely keep track of that hashtag. And I like to keep my hashtags on a spreadsheet, and I just keep them by size. And I also keep track of when I found them. And then every few months I reassess and see if they're still working for me or if I need to add some more new ones. So I think part of the strategy would be to choose some small ones, some medium ones, and some really large ones, depending on the size of your account too. It's kind of dependent on that. And then the other thing that I recommend people do is look at what their followers are using for hashtags, because maybe you think you have a really great hashtag strategy and you're just like, wow, I know all these super cool hashtags that nobody else even knew about. You know, I've done so much research and these are great. These are like winning hashtags. But then you look at what your target audience or your followers are using in the way of hashtags, and they're not using those at all. I think it's okay to do a mix of, I think it's best to do a mix of both, like hashtags that your followers are using and then hashtags that you've really vetted and researched. Because I think you need to meet people where they're at. And a lot of people go on Instagram just to have fun, and you know, they might throw up a few hashtags just for fun, but they don't necessarily have a very detailed, you know, vetting process like some business owners do. And you might not be targeting business owners, you might be targeting someone else that needs your services. So I recommend mixing some of those hashtags that your target audience would use, and then some of the ones that you've found yourself.
I absolutely love the systemization here, keeping a spreadsheet of them and making sure you know exactly when you found them, how big their following are, and how they're being used online. I totally agree. Sometimes I see really fun, cutesy hashtags and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But that's not actually serving the content and that's not actually propping it out to more people. So that's really awesome advice of making sure you're looking at the whole part of what hashtags can actually do. And that idea of it being related to the Dewey Decimal System makes so much sense. It's just a way of categorizing. So that's really awesome. All right, cool. So we've got some great content. We've got our story told within our content. We've made sure that we've distributed it with some awesome hashtags. So let's go into that last bit of social media that seemingly the algorithms are loving the most these days, and that is engagement. We all know they want that meaningful social interaction on every single post. So can you dive into a little bit for some tips for our listeners about how you can create a really engaged community online who wants to talk back to, who feels like they're being listened to, and who wants to have conversations with each other? Do you have any tips or systems to make sure you're engaging quite a bit, but you're not losing your entire day to social media and you're not on there constantly talking to your followers?
Yeah, when you reach the point where it feels overwhelming and awful, you know, I think that's the time to walk away from your phone. Uh, because I think consistency is really important when you're building that community. And if you're engaging so much that you just feel like fried at the end of the day and you can't sleep, I have problems like that sometimes, that I've been in front of a computer screen too long and it's hard for me to fall asleep. I think that's when you have to say, okay, I've engaged today. That's enough. um, I guess what I would do is, if I were just starting out, is I would spend 30 minutes every day that I'm working in my office or wherever you work. So if you take the weekends off, don't engage. Just give yourself a break. You know, that's my advice. I think you have to, again, trust your intuition, and maybe you feel like you need to do more than that. But what I would do in that 30 minutes would be, I would always be super responsive to people that are commenting on my posts, because I'm very grateful that they're there and they're having a conversation with me, and I don't ever want to forget them. I mean, if they're like awful bots and things, I don't engage with them because that's obnoxious and I probably would block them. But if they're real people that are there, you know, communicating with you, I think that's like the best way to use your time. And then I would continue to engage with those people on their content. I would go over to their, you know, to their feed, and I would like their posts if I like them. I mean, I think you have to trust, you have to be honest about how you feel. If you don't like something, don't like it. If you like it, you know? And then have a conversation with them. Go comment on what they're talking about over on their posts, and watch their stories, and have a conversation with them in the DMs. It doesn't have to be about selling. It shouldn't be about selling. It should be about having conversations with people, because what I've noticed from doing that is, number one, I have a nice, you know, community feeling. So that's just an added benefit, especially if you work from home. And number two, those people will think of you when they know somebody that needs something that you have, your services or your product. And you don't have to be hitting them over the head with what you do and how they can buy it. And I also think another good use of your time is, so we said, always responding to comments on your own posts and going to those people's accounts and interacting. And then I think going on researching some hashtags that are in your niche, like some larger hashtags, and going there and finding posts that you're actually interested in the top posts. So when you're looking at the top 9 or sometimes I don't find anything I'm interested in the top 9. And part of my whole ethos as a business owner is that I want to be truthful, and I want to be honest, like an honest, business owner. I don't want to just engage for engagement's sake. So if I don't see something I'm interested in, after I read the comment, I give it some time, then I just move on. I just move on to something else that I find impactful or interesting or funny. So that's my advice, is to, explore some of those hashtags and make new connections that way.
Yeah, I love this idea that engagement is not just engaging back with people on your content, but it's proactively going out there and liking photos of those people who are in your community on their own page, or commenting on their photos and stuff like that. And that matters too, not only for building a relationship with the person, which should be your first goal, but it also matters to the algorithm. Seeing your account going onto their pages is going to open up your posts to those people more often. So that's a really cool idea, that don't just wait for the engagement to come to your posts. If you're frustrated that you're not getting a lot of engagement on the content you're putting out there, consider engaging first on other people's posts and to get the ball rolling. So that's really wise. Cool. So this has been an awesome conversation about getting started online. And above anything, guys, if you take anything away, I love the last comment that Willow made about its consistency. No matter if it's we're creating the content, distributing the content, or engaging with it, all three of those have to be done consistently online to grow your following and to build that really great trust. So thank you so much for really hitting that home. And I would love just to leave today, Willow, with you giving any other business tips for our community, whether it's with your business or your marketing strategy online, that you think they could take action on and get some really great results from.
So I've been thinking, I'm thinking about that right now. And I'm thinking, I know I kind of already touched on this, but there's so much information out there, and we're adding to it right now, even more information. And it's all there, it's all floating around, and everybody's open and listening and doing a lot of good work to get educated. You don't have to, it's available, is what I'm saying. And so I think the most important thing, once you've gotten some really good information, is to just act on things that feel good to you. And again, it's sort of tapping into your intuition and getting clear on what feels right for you. Maybe you watched a really good, free course about going live on Instagram, and you thought, oh wow, that's a little bit scary, but I actually like talking on video. I want to try that. But then you kind of put it off because you don't have a ring light, or you don't have like your, I don't know, like special microphone. I would urge you to just do the things that you feel kind of excited about, and just try those things first. And then don't forget about the part where you analyze how it works out. But I think you can spend a lot of time just thinking about all the things you should be doing, but you're not sure which one to start with. And I would urge you to just start with something that feels fun to you, and start there. And then once you've had a few months doing it, you can see how it went and see if you need to adjust.
Yeah, I think that's so wise. And one of the things that Laura Roeder, the founder of Meet Edgar, always says is don't be afraid to have fun in your business. I think so much of the time we're conditioned to this idea that business is only for business. It can't be fun. But if you're having fun with it and you're following the things that you feel good doing, like if you love video, do video. If you love writing, write a blog, then you're going to consistently keep doing that. And your followers are going to feel that in the content you're putting out there. So I love that advice, is that you don't have to have anything fancy to get started. Just get the ball rolling for what you actually like to do. And you'll analyze, like Willow said, and go from there. Follow the bright spots of what's working, what's not working, and you'll find a good strategy for yourself. So of course, take this information, use it as a blueprint, but put your own spin on it so that you really do come across as someone unique online these days. Willow, this has been an awesome conversation, and I really appreciate you sharing all these tips today. Guys, we will put the links in the show notes here for what you're actually going to be able to do to find more about Willow, to visit her on LinkedIn or her website, all that fun stuff. So go ahead and give this a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll be excited to come back with you next week. Willow, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks everybody for watching, and thank you, Megan. I really appreciate doing this. It was fun.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and be sure to keep the conversation going with us on social. We're at Meet Edgar on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So let us know your biggest takeaway from today's episode, and don't forget to tag us. Visit www.meetedgar.com and start a free trial to up-level your social media marketing strategy today. Happy posting!